I hope everyone's doing well. These are the 3 practice results for practice 2. Norris, thank you for the like. Hope you're doing well, whoever you are. Hello there, John Cartier, my favourite Norwegian Thai subscriber. Always here. Of course, Ferrari are 20 points ahead in the constructors, I think, or 24. And, well, at least they've got 1, 2 in free practice 2. Of course, Ferrari also pulled off a publicity stunt in FP1, where, of course, they got Alfa Leclerc to drive Carlos Sainz's car. I don't know whether it, well, I mean, obviously every team has to run 2 junior drivers, so Ferrari decided it'd be best to give Mr. Leclerc Jr. a run out. Of course, if you want to see what I'm eating, it is in here. But back to $640 and 619. Thank you for telling me. For McLaren win the Constructors' Championship. Well, there's still 44 points to go, so I don't know about that, but the thing is, though, we have to remember it's not been an easy year for both Ferrari and McLaren. Oh, that was you saying it, say Regara. I'm not sure about that. Hold your horses, because we all know Ferrari are so unpredictable. The least predictable team on the grid by a mile. Even more erratic than some of Ferrari worst showings in the past few years. Like that infamous SF1000 car they produced. In Formula One, you can never, ever rule anything out. And with this McLaren team, I don't know. I think obviously we've got FP3 to go tomorrow, but Hulkenberg in his final race for Haas goes 3rd fastest with a, what was it, a lap time of a 1 minute 39.979. Very impressive. I don't know what you're laughing at, say, but for we know, we all know Lando in particular can really make some horrible mistakes like he did last week at Qatar, where even if you think the penalty is harsh, he did ignore the double wave yellows, which is a huge offence. And with Lando out of the championship, of course, the FIA did not hesitate to come clamping down on him, because they know that dude, I think you are right to some degree. Obviously, Lando is a quicker driver, but he's not exactly reliable. I just hope Sainz keeps Ferrari above Red Bull. I think, honestly, he should have no problems doing that, because with Perez's record in FP in qualifying, I would be very surprised if Perez somehow gets into Q3 again. Was that Perez will be out of that Red Bull seat next year, because Red Bull have decided that his Mexican money is not worth the actual pesos is printed on. Luis Carlos needs to do Ferrari a huge favour. Okay, so I presume you mean Hamilton and Russell. Oh yeah, I forgot. Oh yeah, what's it? Leclerc's getting a time penalty, grid penalty for Sunday, because of a, I don't know, new engine, I think. So he will not start the top 5 or top 10, depending on what the penalty is. Is it 5 place, 10 place grid penalty? Red Bull needs both cars in the top 4. Dude, I think Red Bull don't even care about the constructors anymore. I know they can still win the... Can they win the construct? No. Oh no, they're more than 50 points out, aren't they? So yeah, it's over for them. But they can still clinch P2, but Perez needs to do something in order for that to happen. And I've only had one vote for my pole position thing. And of course, that vote has gone to Norris, which I think is definitely doable. But problem is, the question is always about what does Lando Norris do on race day? He definitely has the speed, but he doesn't really have the race management. And that's a RB581. What does that mean? Can you explain? Because I don't know. I'm sorry if I sound stupid, but for those of you wondering, I am eating my meal at a normal time for once. Hope everyone is doing well at work, at school, or whatever you're doing right now. Last race of the season, so of course Abu Dhabi is not known for thrillers, but I'm looking at the rest of the practice results. Bottas is 7th, so I don't think in what probably is going to be his last F1 race. Magnussen 8th, last F1 race. Albon 9th, to the 2 RBs, Tsunoda and Lawson. Gasly 12th. Of course, how can I forget Jack Dowen will be making his F1 debut this weekend, and he went 19th fastest on this, just instead of Colin Pinto. So oh, 581 points. Thank you. Yeah, so Red Bull cannot win the constructors anymore. It is over for them, but they can still clinch P2, but I think they're nearly 40 points behind Ferrari, so surely they can pay anyway. It's like Monaco, yeah, absolutely. I mean, even with, sorry, what was it? Which part of the track did they change? Yeah, they changed that bit. Oh yeah, this bit where there used to be a chicane. Even though they've sped the track up a lot, it's still not a very particularly overtaking friendly track at all, I'm afraid. So unfortunately, we're not going to get that much of a great race, but we never do get great races here at Abu Dhabi, unless, of course, it's 2021. Of course, we cannot make a certain fan base angry about what happened that day, because even though, yes, Michael Massey was an absolute goat for deciding to mess up the lap car routine, the drama the sport received was absolutely unprecedented. But having said that, I don't recall many other good races around Abu Dhabi, except for maybe 2012, when, of course, a certain Finnish driver won the race in a Lotus and told everyone to bugger off on the radio, Mr. Kimi Räikkönen. To be honest, it is crazy to think, but this is only going to be Lando's fourth ever race win if he can get the job done on Sunday. And if he wins the race, that should seal the Constructors' title by itself. So 20 whatever points it was. Thailand versus Timor. Come on, mate. Come on, mate. You've got to watch the last race of the season. I'm sure Lando will put a smile on your face, and I'm sure Thailand will destroy Timor-Leste 6-0, because Timor-Leste are basically the San Marino of Asia. So I know there's also Guam, but I don't even know why ASEAN even bother inviting teams like Laos and Timor-Leste to the tournament. It just... we all know there's only like 5 or 6 teams that have any chance of getting to the semi-finals, so... ...2016, what happened? Oh yeah, Nico Rosberg won a championship despite finishing second. Yeah, unfortunately, this track is not exactly known for being particularly fun to watch racing. It is more of a soap opera than an actual place for a finale like Interlagos in Brazil. Looking at the other lap times, there is also Alonso and Stroll 16th and 18th. Can't wait for Adrian Newey to come there. Zhou 15th, back to normal for him. Colin Pinto 20th. I think Albon was given a massive wake-up call on when Colin Pinto arrived, and I think, you know, the team were worried about Albon slacking off. I am so sorry about that. Okay, there's 2 Anglo ties that have been picked for the squad. Yeah, I know obviously that this diaspora is definitely coming in handy for the big Asian teams now, like I know Japan used to play a few players born in Europe, like a half German player. And I know China picked up a few half Chinese players from born in England, like Tejas Browning and Nico Yaniris in the past, and a lot of Brazilian players. Interestingly enough, the South Korean women's team actually did pick a foreign-born player ahead of the men's team, because I think the South Korean football team is absolutely committed to making sure that native-born players get first priority at all costs, like the Vietnamese team, apart from obviously their 2 goalkeepers, but of course, Vietnamese people are not very tall, so I can understand them picking 2 foreign-born goalkeepers, but apart from that, they are very much committed to picking native-born players like South Korea, which is all well and good, but it does make me wonder whether they might be missing out on a chance to be a bit stronger. And then, of course, you get Indonesia, who have actually kept most of their European-based players away for this tournament because they know that a lot of them have club commitments, and I think the only ones I know of that have come to the tournament have been Marcelino Ferdinand, can't get a game at Oxford, and Justin Hubner, who can't get a game at Wolves. So obviously for them, they've got they are very much free to play at the ASEAN Championship. Dortmund versus Sundowns in the Club World Cup. I mean, I think the Club World Cup is definitely a tournament for other people around the world. It's not really one for Europeans. I think the viewing figures in Europe is going to be rock bottom. So, and of course, it's going to be shown on pay TV. So I don't even know what I'm going to do for that. I think a lot of people see the Club World Cup in Europe the same way they see the Nations League. A money grabber, but of course, I think obviously we know that a lot of your non-teams outside of Europe don't really get to play in a big continental tournament. So for them, this is absolutely excellent. Oh yeah, obviously all the big players that Indonesia had in qualifying are all not going to be there. So, I mean, they picked up Reinders brothers, who's only like 5'6". Yeah, I might watch on YouTube, obviously. Although I have to say, obviously, due to the lesser quality of the teams, obviously, I think the viewing figures go down a bit from what I've seen, but I will be interested. Don't you worry, John. And I've got a little bit of avocado inside my pan. Of course, I know some people are here watching me, and of course, some here are for the F1. I don't know what it is, but Charles Leclerc is so inconsistent with his pace in general. Hence why I think Lewis Hamilton joined Ferrari, because I think deep down he knows he could beat Charles Leclerc, but of course we all know Lewis is approaching 40. Porto versus Miami, Madrid versus Al Hilal. Yeah, thank you, John. Yeah. There will be no Al Nasser, though, at this tournament, which is, I think, it might be a bit of a missed opportunity, because we all know this is a money spinner. Like, I know they all have to qualify according to, like, whether they've actually won a tournament and whether how high their UEFA coefficients are. Of course, that has meant that only Chelsea and Man City are the only Premier League clubs coming to this tournament, so they could well be taking a lot of youngsters instead. And a lot of their regular players like Cole Palmer and Madueke could well be taking a break. And on top of everything, there will be the Intercontinental Cup that will take place instead of where the FIFA Club World Cup will usually take place, which of course Real Madrid will be attending. I don't know what to say about that. FIFA just want that money at all costs. I have to say, I have watched a few Club World Cup games before when Liverpool lost to Sao Paulo 20 odd years ago. For those who are wondering, this is the FP2 results. I've seen a lot of videos recently about George Russell and Max Verstappen's feud recently. Yeah, obviously in terms of constructors, McLaren deserved to win it, but in terms of Lando Norris and his championship charge, it's been a bit disappointing, and Piastri's lack of pace in qualifying has definitely been an issue for them. It's not been anything close to the perfect season. The truth is, I think McLaren will want to improve next year and try and actually go for the driver's title, but if George Russell's lurking about, then I think that avenue could be shut off. It's going to be quite awkward to see Lando Norris celebrate on Sunday, knowing that he lost the driver's title by 2 races to spare. Less wind tunnel time might be a huge handicap. Absolutely true, I'm afraid. I don't know what McLaren are going to do when they have to try and do testing in their wind tunnel, knowing they have less time than everyone else. And it could well cost them the chance of defending their title. And without the fastest corner grid, I think it's pretty clear that Lando Norris and Piastri probably won't be in the driver's fight anyway next year. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a great season for McLaren to get the constructors, but it does seem like a glass half empty moment, doesn't it? I mean, obviously in 2005, Kimi lost the title 2 races ago, and McLaren also lost the constructors, which is definitely a worse result. And they had the worst thing about it is that at the cars they were on board, Kimi could have won the driver's title too, but so ultimately, yeah, McLaren fans should be happy with the eventual outcome. Despite Lando screwing up the drivers. But then, of course, we have to remember Perez has not really been that great a number 2 driver in his time at Red Bull, apart from maybe 2 or 3 races where he blocked Lewis Hamilton to help Verstappen in the championship in 21. Have to remember, he still lost Red Bull to constructors that year to Bottas, of all people. I know loads of people giving Perez a hugely generous driver's score for his year, but No one could have guessed. Well, to be fair, in the start of the year, was it? I think they only had, was it? McLaren only had one podium in the first 5 races, and that was it. And the car wasn't that particularly quick, but then it picked up from Miami on. So I think obviously the McLaren fan argument revolves around the fact that I think obviously you have to take into account that I don't think Lando Norris is anywhere near as good as what Kimi Raikkonen was, or what Lewis Hamilton was, or frankly a lot of the top drivers McLaren have had over the years, to be honest. Hakkinen definitely not as good as him. Senna, Prost, you can forget about it. It's almost like David Coulthard leading the team all over again back in 2001 and 2. Decent, but not great. And it's just sad. But the fact is, you're coming away with more than what you got 2005, 6, and 2007, where, of course, lost both drivers' titles to Kimi and Ferrari due to the whole scandal. You are absolutely correct, say Regara. Yeah, they have absolutely built themselves up for this moment, and they've got their just rewards, which I think is true. To leave Verstappen, and they probably win a few of those races. Maybe. Yeah, Verstappen, God, he's too good, isn't he? Verstappen is definitely driving even better than what Fernando Alonso was back in 2005. I'll give it. Like, my God, he's just too good. I don't think present day Fernando Alonso could cope with Verstappen at all. Like, Verstappen is just an absolute phenomenon. Unbelievable driver, truly special, probably even more dominant than Schumacher in his prime. So I don't know what to say anymore. We're witnessing a generational talent. I mean, you could argue Verstappen, without Verstappen, I think Red Bull would probably finish fourth in the title, in the constructors' title, and you can forget about the drivers completely. I don't think any other driver could have won the driver's title in this year's Red Bull, period. I think yeah, you're going to need Rob Marshall to really, really, really pull his hand out now. Let's face it, I don't think, I mean, this year is going to be a bit of a huge score on Lando's reputation. And the fact that he branded Verstappen a comedian for saying that Max believes he could have won the drivers in the McLaren this year is desperate backtracking. Lando doesn't have the minerals. Let me repeat again. Lando Norris does not have the minerals to win a driver's title at this moment in time. He needs a lot of help. Obviously, yeah, but I'm talking about the driver's title. I don't think Alonso beats Verstappen in a straight fight, I'm afraid. And I think with Lewis aging, I think he's also stuck in the same trajectory that I don't think he would beat Max either. It's a Max Verstappen paradise we're living in. It could well be the Max Verstappen show for many years to come, and he could well sweep all the records by the time he's 33 years old, and then he'll probably just walk off retiring with nothing to achieve, and I think the sport will have a big empty hole in it. It's been a long season. It's been a very, 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 very weird season with Ferrari winning 5 races. I think Mercedes have got 5. Was it 4 or 5? Because I think obviously Russell won at Las Vegas and Austria, Hamilton at Belgium and Britain. Everyone who's won a race has won a race twice. That's another crazy stat. I've seen videos saying that Carlos Sainz could return to Ferrari, but why would Ferrari want Sainz when Behrman's going to be available soon if he does well at Haas and beats Ocon? Oh, right. Is Kenny pregnant with Max's child? So obviously, Kenny, first daughter was born to Danny Kvyat, where they split up quite early on, and then of course, I mean, Max has already, well, sort of knows what it's like to be a parent, being a step parent to Penelope, and now he's going to actually become a dad for the first time soon. Congratulations. And did you know Kenny PK is half Dutch? Like, I've seen people say they look so similar, like, it makes sense because she's actually half Dutch because of her mum. And of course, Flavio Briatore used to be Nelson PK's team boss at Benetton. I actually do think Behrman is going to be a great driver. I'm not sure whether he's going to be world champion material, but I think he'll be good enough for Ferrari if he can beat Ocon. Ocon's all over the place for me. don't tell the Esteban Ocon fans that, because all I'm saying is that you've got to give Behrman a little bit of time to really get set up in F1. Yeah, but if Ocon decides to do the same tricks against Behrman like he did against Gasly, Behrman will get a lot of fan sympathy, because we all know Ocon is a bit too dirty for his own good. I understand Ocon can be entertaining, but let's be really honest, he can be quite toxic, and I think Jack Doohan coming in for the last race for Alpine is a good move, because let's be honest, Ocon's not interested. He wants to test from Haas ASAP, which is a good move on his part, but you know, it's now Pierre Gasly's team, which is absolutely fantastic news for me, being a Pierre Gasly fan, because I really don't want to be out here cussing Ocon anymore. I've really cussed him out a few times. Not as badly as like I've done with Stroll and Alonso, but he's still quite a temperamental, recalcitrant driver. I mean, you're absolutely correct. Obviously, you get your Ocon type fanboys, but I'm not having it. I can see through their BS. He's going to be 29 years old next year, so I mean, he's younger than Gasly, but Gasly's a bit more stable. I know Gasly had a rocky period in 22 and 23 where he kept picking up penalties, disobeying yellow flags and all that, but I think Gasly has improved his attention to detail. That's not really the case for Ocon, who just seems to want to drive exactly the same way he did back when he was at Force India, which is not good enough. And we have to remember, he did get destroyed by none other than Mr. Smiley, also known as Daniel Ricciardo, when he was at when he came back to F1, when he called themselves Renault. Obviously, the team is going to be undergoing another transformation soon. I can't feel sorry for Ocon with how his career trajectory's gone, because I know Alpine are going to become high-tech Mercedes, so they're going to lose their factory engine, but they're still going to have all their old facilities from Enstone, which is obviously still better than anything Haas have got, which is no simulator, huge reliance on Ferrari and Delora for technical help. So Ocon, I mean, no matter how much Ocon wants to say that this is a great career move, I mean, for me, they are the three basement teams of Formula One, along with Williams and Racing Bulls. And that you only end up at those teams if you're really struggling and no one else wants you. I mean, I know Sauber are going to be finishing last with just 4 points, but at least Audi, despite their own problems and the fact they're trying to already scale back and sell some of their shares to Qatar, at least they have more technical facilities at Sauber and Audi. That's not the case for Haas, I'm afraid. I don't know. Comment what you think. 2 people voted for Russell, which is, I think, a fairly solid choice. For pole position. Komatsu is a better team principal than Steiner. I kind of agree with that. But unfortunately, Komatsu doesn't take control of any business dealings. It's all down to Mr. Gene Haas to provide funding and facilities, and Gene all seems to think he's doing the right thing, which I don't, but at least Komatsu just focuses on the racing side and not so much the PR side, which I think is better. And I think Komatsu has provided a happier environment for the Haas employees, which is definitely a bonus, because we all know Steiner was something of a ticking time bomb of himself when he was in charge of the team. And surely having happier employees is a more productive working environment. No big ego, no big drama. I mean, Komatsu he only disciplines people when he has to. He will treat everyone like an adult, which is how it should be. He's not going to sit there and go on rambling speeches about his own agenda, which is what every team needs. Just the team principal just stands by his team and doesn't say more than he has to. You know, sometimes the greatest way to defeat your opponent is to not interrupt them when they're making a mistake, and I think Komatsu definitely sort of understands that philosophy. He might not be as big a personality and as charismatic as Gunther, but I'm sure most of the Haas employees do not care one iota about that. I'm just waiting for the 50s because I want to see the Maxwell meltdown. Oh my God, Maxwell. Absolutely. My God, he went crazy when he saw Indonesia lose to China, didn't he? My God. Oh my God. Indonesia and Vietnam, always a great rivalry down in the Southeast Asian zone. My God, the bitterness of those two is really quite something, isn't it? On Vietnam might have a chance of winning because Indonesia will be fielding a weakened team. I think it's probably going to look more like the team that they've been playing with before the Dutch players appeared. So even then, I think Vietnam are just going to have to pull their socks up. And I think for Vietnam, though, however, they have no World Cup qualifying games to play for. So for them, this is going to be literally everything. And of course, we all know Indonesia will be bringing a lot of kids with them. So the kids on Indonesia's team will have a lot to prove themselves. So I'm definitely watching it. Don't you worry, John. I will be watching Indonesia and Vietnam duke it out once again. Probably the biggest and worst-tempered rivalry in the whole continent. Even worse than, I don't know, even some of the Middle Eastern teams, to be honest. Like Saudi and Iran. Did you know that chicken feet is a great source of collagen, as disgusting as it sounds? I know Andros Townsend eats collagen so that chicken feet to top of his collagen and the ligaments around his bones. Although, by the way, I have never eaten chicken feet in my life because I think the whole idea grosses me out. But, you know, you've got to do what you got to do in this business. And as you get older, obviously, your knees and your joints get worse. So, especially if you play football or basketball where you jump around and sprint around a lot. Rugby's another one that kills your joints and your brains and everything. I think anyone who decides to go vegan if they play rugby or American football is literally screwing themselves. Because let's be honest, I don't think plant protein is anywhere near as effective as animal protein. I am aware that Lewis Hamilton and Kevin Magnussen, I think, are vegans, but obviously you don't need to be muscly to be an F1 driver, so it's not quite as damaging. Boca Juniors versus Bayern Munich. Boca Juniors, I think, have got the biggest fan base in South America, but I mean, the problem is obviously for a lot of these big European teams, I don't think their fan bases are going to be quite as interested as the rest of the world will be for these fixtures, to be honest. I think the smaller the clubs around the world will get a huge amount of promotion for at least 1 month, like Boca Juniors, who, despite having a huge fan base, are barely known around the world. Sundowns from South Africa, they're going to get a lot of publicity. I think some of the Middle Eastern and North African teams are going to get a bit of airtime. Who else? Red Diamonds from Japan will get publicity. I think a few other Asian clubs. I'm trying to think who else has won. Who else has qualified from East Asia? Is it? I don't think any Australian clubs will be coming because they haven't done well enough. I think there will be Wellington Phoenix from New Zealand that will appear. But is that because of the fact that the best team in Oceania? Probably. I think Vietnam are absolutely screwed when it comes to injuries anyway, so I think a lot of their best players are just basically full-time hospital patients like Ousmane Dembele. Man City have been drawn with Juventus, yeah. I don't know. The problem is I can imagine a lot of the European sides bringing over their best under 23 players instead, to be honest, because I don't think the senior players will really want to play in these FIFA Club World Cup games at all. They'll be going to the tournament. I don't know, could it be 2 weeks after the Champions League final? I don't imagine a lot of players wanting to come for that. And of course, the real World Cup will be on in a year's time. So unfortunately, I think we might be missing quite a few big names. God, well, look, I mean, the problem is for European fans, it just looks like a. I don't know, it just looks like a DOS, I'm afraid, and I don't know what. I don't know if I will even care, to be honest, I'm afraid. It's just going to look like... Obviously, I think the cash prize is about $1 billion, but... I think without the $1 billion cash prize, I mean, why else would you turn up at a tournament like this? As for F1, I mean, Max is already a 4-time champion. McLaren want to win their first constructors in 26 years, which they should have more or less completed last weekend if it wasn't for Norris's double wave yellows blooper. And no one is watching anymore, so I think I'll end it there. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time.